Welcome back to Goohoo Radio, guys. George Pereira, Noah Lipsick, and Andrew Papel all in the house to please your ears today.
What? In the morning.
That is not my voice, though I wish I sounded like that. So we've got a different story for you today to close out the night. I have good and bad news.
What's the good news?
The good
I
news.
always like the good news.
The good news is that we have a really cool story about Jupiter to tell you about. So that's
Jupiter.
cool. Jupiter. If you're from Jupiter, you're Jovian. We went over this. So that's cool.
Or if you're a rock from Jupiter, you're a Jovian Rock.
That's a good name for
most people aren't from Jupiter.
That's a good name for a band.
Wouldn't it be? Or a genre of music. What kind of music? Oh, we play Jovian Rock.
Jovian Rock. Oh man, put that Jovian stuff I love so much.
So good.
The music from there is so good. From Jovian.
It mostly sounds like. That's the sound of gas.
Yeah, floating hydrogen.
That was an asteroid hitting the. Anyways,
It sounds like, but Jovian music is something about the core of it. That awful segue. What's new about Jupiter?
Well, before I get to the story, I do want to tell these people the bad news. There will be no live music jam today.
Womp womp.
A couple technical issues. A bass that has no sound, but it's a beautiful bass.
It's gorgeous.
Well, we couldn't-
Unfortunately, you won't hear it.
Her name is Eliza.
Her name is Eliza. The bass's name is Eliza.
Yes.
Her name is Eliza.
And she's a bass. More on Jovian Rock. The core of Jupiter is melting.
What?
Melting.
This affects my life deeply.
I can no longer go outside and function as a member of society.
Okay, how does this? What? So what?
So the core is melting. And basically what this means is Jupiter is a gas giant, right?
Yes. Yeah, most definitely.
So they got like the rocky middle and then a bunch of gas and then like a kind of like a fine coating on the outside. Is that how it works?
Well, on the outside, it's mostly just hydrogen, and then the big part of it is helium, I would assume.
Okay. So if I wanted to land on Jupiter, how far into Jupiter would I have to go to touch something?
You'd be crushed first.
well, by the gravitational pull, right?
Not so much crushed, but you would probably burn to death on the way through. Just even being, let's say, 100 miles from...
So, George, I'm going to say stick to Europe this summer. Don't try for Jupiter.
But the Jovian music's at the Jupiters and the... Anyways. So Jupiter's core is melting. And basically what this means is if Jupiter has a rocky core at the middle and the rest is just gas and the core melts, what physically remains? Like, does it mix with the gas and become a larger solid? Does it eventually become a full-on planet?
Well, here's the thing. It used to believe that there was sort of a defined border between the core and the gaseous exterior.
Right.
But now it seems that it's not quite such a sharp line, that these heavier elements in the middle are melting in and out of the gaseous exterior.
Whoa.
And although this may not affect your life tomorrow, you're still going to be going to school and waking up and doing the same thing. It does affect the way that scientists view planet formations and that kind of thing. So, what this means for us, not a lot personally, but the thing is, our knowledge of space is constantly expanding, right? And so as our knowledge of space expands, we sort of need to look at these things that we previously viewed in one sense and do a 180 and sort of look at them in other ones. And as our knowledge expands, our frame of reference differs.
And then you can add an extra volume to your Encyclopedia Britannica that is only available in iPad form. If you were listening to last week's show.
And that's a callback. And soon they'll all be available for download via podcast.
Woo!
One day.
Nice little plug.
I'm excited.
So basically, what this comes down to is it's just another example of how our scientific knowledge has not failed us, but has changed a lot over time. And that happens all the time, right?
It blows my mind because you'll hear about like, oh, this thing came out, this news story that destroys all of the research and knowledge that we have on. And it's like, how do you put years and years of research into something only to have one instance happen? And just be like, wow, we were wrong the whole time.
But that's the thing, that it's not that all of this other research is destroyed, that it's no good, because...
It was based on something that
was... Right, science is built on the backs of giants, right? Everything that exists because the previous wrong thing also existed. I'm not sure if you, the listener, or if any of you guys have taken high school science courses, but I remember one of the most frustrating things was it would constantly be, I would have one model of say, of an atom presented to me, and then only 2 years later, I'd be like, well, actually, that was a simplified version that we told you because you weren't smart enough to handle the real one. And that would keep happening, where there'd be these simplified versions that would be presented, and then the more complicated ones would be sort of built on top, and that's the way that scientific progress works.
I didn't really get past molecular bonding because I was never very good at science. But yeah, I remember taking stuff like that, like the periodic table of elements, and it had all those elements on there, and then it gave you the main ones, and then it's like, oh, there's like this row at the bottom of like new ones, but we're not going to quiz you on those. Californium, you don't need that one.
Yeah, only the first 20 are important. Yeah.
What are the first 20?
Well,
Starts with hydrogen.
Hydrogen, helium, but we're not going to name these all off now.
Lithium's the third one. I know that much. Yeah.
And I know the fourth one is carbon-6, but
no, fourth is boron.
Fourth,
I'll never forget that one.
You know what else is boron? Conversations about the periodic table of elements.
Yes.
Hey-yo!
Play on words.
Science puns. I love them.
So that's what you come to expect here with Noah and George from 6 to 9 every Thursday.
We still don't have a show name, which is what we wanted to talk to you guys about last week, but we forgot. We need a show name. My Twitter handle, @news_George. Give me a show name because I have no creativity. And Noah has some, but not enough for making a show name.
So remember, if you have any comments, any feedback, any heckling you'd like to deliver to us, the Twitter handle is @news_George.
That's me. So tell me what we should name our show. Back to the point. Andrew, do you still take any science classes?
Sorry about that.
That's
I had
okay.
to clear my throat. I am currently in astronomy at U of T. So
are you the shining star of the astronomy program?
It's a really, really...
Or are you nothing but a gaseous ball of hot air?
Of hot air, yeah. No, this course is boosting my GPA, so, no harm done.
Those courses are very important.
It's also my science credit, so I need this in order to get that piece of paper at the end of 4 years.
Okay, so have you learned anything in there that's relevant to the story here? Like, have you learned about how Jupiter is suddenly melting at its core and becoming something else that scientists cannot explain, but your astronomy teacher can?
Well, I would assume his name's Dr. Reed, by the way. He would probably state that the melting of the core is a good thing. This can possibly result in either the production of our planet or there will be a mini supernova, if that makes any sense. Jupiter can get really, really hot and really, really, really dense, and then just blow everything out. Which could definitely impact us if it ever hits us.
I don't like that as much as the other option, which was a new planet, because that means that we get to name a new planet.
And we get to make domes, and we can live on the domes.
What? That's not how new planets work.
Yeah, you colonize them.
Oh, I guess. Yeah, well, we have planets right now that aren't colonized that we can work on. But you could get to name a new planet. Would it be the first person who discovered it? Would you call it, like, Jupiter 2? Maybe you could call it, like, Jovian Rock.
Jovian Rock.
That's considering this conversation, that's actually what came to mind at first. I'd want to take a minute to just think of something really clever.
It is. And if you guys are good at thinking of clever names, remember, @news_George.
This is getting redundant, isn't it?
Because we need a clever name for our show, just like New Jupiter does.
New Jupiter's not a bad name. I mean, if England can have a New England, and that's the only one I can...
York?
Mexico has a New Mexico.
York has a New York?
York does have a New York.
New York used to be called New Amsterdam.
Ooh,
before the Yorkshiremen took it over. If that is, in fact, who took it over.
And now it used to be a new... Do you think there's any more New Amsterdams in the world? Like, do you think there are other Amsterdams out there?
There might be. I'm not sure. Amsterdam, they had their time. But...
Anyways.
Jovian Rock.
Yes. So you think that this thing can turn into a... Wait, Pluto can explode? I don't know how Pluto is...
No, Pluto never came in there. Where'd you get Pluto from?
You said that Pluto would explode.
No.
I said Jupiter.
Oh, okay, so Jupiter would get really hot and explode. And how far-reaching would this explosion be?
Okay, well, this is just hypothesis, right?
I love hypothesis. Give me it all.
Odds of this happening are, 1,000,000 to 1. But
those are pretty high odds as far as science goes.
Okay, well, essentially, the core would get super hot. It would become smaller and smaller and keep contracting, which would essentially make all the gas come down.
It would all compress into a very, very dense ball.
Well, yes. First, Jupiter would have to convert its core to, a really heavy element, most likely iron. Same thing in the sun. From there... So
it's like it's taking its pop cans and converting them into aluminum that it can then recycle into other things. That's sort of how it works. Is it takes certain elements and it recycles them into other things.
Yeah, basically, as elements are being,
Formed
in the core, just basically helium and hydrogen just keep smashing into them, and then they get blown out into space. That's typically how it works.
That sounds violent and exciting.
It is extremely violent. These things go at a fraction of the speed of light, which even at 1/10 is ridiculously fast.
It'll rip a hole through you, I bet.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just like the Hunger Games, where like things will blow up and smash.
It'll be really exciting. Catch it at midnight. Wait, it's sold out.
Oh. Anyway, back to the planet. The core would eventually all become iron, and gravity would push it down. It would outweigh pressure because there's no pressure coming out from the core, and this would happen at literally 1/5 the speed of light. Everything
That's super fast.
That's incredibly fast. Everything, all the gas around Jupiter would literally come down to the core. It would hit a solid piece of metal that is unbreakable because it's so incredibly hot, so incredibly dense, and everything would just boom back into the universe, and we would be left with a tiny, tiny little dwarf planet, as Noah said, Jupiter 2.
And what would Jupiter 1 would just be gone?
Jupiter 1, fragments of that might hit Earth. It would take a while, but definitely probable.
Will it happen in our lifetime?
I don't know. I do not have a PhD on the subject. But this new article, it could happen in our lifetime. Odds of it happening, probably not.
Now, if chunks of Jupiter 1 were to come down onto Earth, what do you think people would do with them? Would they be like the new diamonds where you'd like, oh, I got you a Jupiter ring?
Or remember when chunks of satellites started falling from space?
That happened?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
A little piece landed on a woman's shoulder in New York.
Oh.
And she was like, cool, I have a piece of a satellite.
Nice.
But nobody made satellite rings. Would they make Jupiter rings? That's a good question.
I think, well, and there'd be a lot more Jupiter than there would be satellite.
Absolutely.
But what would happen is it would, probably destroy the Earth, considering that these things are bouncing back at 1/5 at the speed of light.
So no Jupiter rings is what you're saying.
Yeah, essentially.
Could it punch a hole through the Earth, turning the Earth into a Jupiter ring?
Well, no.
A giant Jupiter ring?
Actually, it might.
Well, it would probably just fragment, I guess.
It can just zoot right through the core, and probably nothing would happen, but there would be a big hole in, a second Marianas Trench.
Could we get I guess the equivalent of a giant bicycle tire patch and just sort of tape over the hole and pretend like nothing happened?
Worlds would probably flood, considering that most of the world's water is
You're such
probably...
a downer.
I am pessimistic.
You want to ride the Earth like a bike.
I do!
No.
Well, I just want to repair the Earth like a bike. I stick to what I know. I know how to patch a tube. If I can patch a tube.
You're Canadian. You want to put duct tape or scotch tape. What's the...
Oh, man, we'll just make the world's largest duct tape patch and cover up that hole.
Duct tape everything.
You know how food used to bring people together? In the future, it'll be duct tape. And we'll all come together with duct tape to heal the Earth.
Yes, but once people come together with duct tape, they can't go apart. Unlike food, afterwards you leave. But with duct tape, you're stuck together forever.
Some food never leaves, Noah.
And sometimes that's not a bad thing.
Oh, I know. Chili, there's some... but let's not go into there.
Let's not. How do we segue? It's just...
I guess we're not segueing. We're just going to jump straight back into music unless there's anything
We'll play some tunes. We're going to get into some Sublime. What's the song over there, Noah?
Sublime is What I Got.
What I Got. We're going to play some songs, and then we're going to come say bye to you guys, because we're actually heading out of here soon.
So, without any further ado, Sublime, What I Got. You're listening to Noah and George on Goohoo Radio.
See ya.